Hey, what's up guys, Omogonix here and welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel. So just recently, Halo Infinite's campaign finally released after years of waiting, and in my opinion it really was worth the wait. I completed the campaign on Heroic and from start to finish it was a great experience all the way through. I won't be spoiling anything in this video for those who haven't played or finished yet, so if you're worried I may be spoiling anything in this video, I won't. I may show cutscenes here and there, so if you're trying to avoid any cutscenes at all, then I understand why, but other than that, I won't be talking about what happens in the story, just giving my thoughts on it. And so without further ado, let's start. First off, I want to talk about the gameplay. Halo Infinite has the best gameplay out of any game in a series, and it honestly makes it hard to go back to the older games. The player movement feels very natural and the gunplay complements it well. Killing banished enemies is extremely satisfying and every weapon feels amazing to use. It's honestly a lot more fun using Halo Infinite's weapons in the campaign than it is the multiplayer. They just feel so much more satisfying to use. A reason being the impact of the weapons on banished enemies. When killing multiple grunts with a commando, for example, you can really feel the impacts of the bullets and the way the grunts react afterwards, whether their packs explode and they go flying around, or you get a satisfying pop of a headshot. The weapons in Infinite can be addictive to use, and Infinite does a very good job at forcing the player to make use of the weapon sandbox as well. Since the Banished are largely scavengers, they do carry around not just their own weaponry, but Forerunner and human weaponry as well. This is a great way to try get players to use other weapons more and give them more of a chance to use certain weapons as well. So you will find yourself making use of all the weapons Infinite has to offer in order to press on and survive. Also, to be honest, I was expecting there to be more weapons in the campaign than there is in the multiplayer, due to there not being much legacy weapons in the multiplayer, but even with the weapons that there are, it's great that 343 went with the choice to create a whole bunch of new weapons to replace older ones, as it adds so much freshness to the series and makes it feel a lot more newer too. But it would be cool in the future to see some classic or older weapons be added to the game potentially, like in the multiplayer or future campaign DLC. Master Chief also has armor abilities which you find as you complete the story. These abilities include multiplayer ones like Grapple Shot, Front Sensor, Thrust, and the Drop Wall. You can also upgrade these abilities by collecting Spartan cores in Infinite's open world, which I'll be getting into later on in this video. So by using the Spartan cores in the upgrades menu, you can, for example, upgrade Chief's shields by an additional 15%, or for another example, you can upgrade your threat sensor to increase its radius by 50%. I honestly really like this feature as it makes Halo feel much more evolved and fresh. It's great to see many advancements that have been made to Halo Infinite through the campaign. My personal favourite ability would have to be the Grapple Shot, as there are many situations on Heroic difficulty that were near impossible, and the Grapple Shot was extremely useful when it came to making great escapes and giving me an advantage in combat as well. The checkpoints in Infinite are the best in the series as well. If there's something I've had an issue with in the older Halo games, it's the checkpoints. Checkpoints only occur when a player triggers one in a new section, so if you spend a couple minutes struggling to kill some enemies and then you die and have to start all over again, it can be frustrating depending on the difficulty. Infinite fixes this issue, however, and checkpoints occur much more frequently and aren't trigger based. I think they're more just automatic. The checkpoints were handy on Heroic, and I'm glad the checkpoints are the way they are. It's such a big relief, and it's a good upgrade to the old checkpoint system. So basically, you could be in the middle of a fight in Halo Infinite, right? Like, let's say for example you're on Legendary, and you could be like in a certain section for 20 minutes, right? Or 30 minutes, and then you die. Well, if that was in like Halo 3 for example, you would have to probably restart that whole section again. But in Halo Infinite it actually just saves it as you're in combat, so when you're in cover and stuff like that, you know, it'll just have random like checkpoints pop up and it'll save your progress too, so that's really good. When it comes to gameplay, another thing I should talk about are the boss battles. Halo Infinite's boss battles are the best in the series by far. The last boss fight, which I will not mention, is in particular one of the most advanced and unique boss fights in Halo ever. Halo Infinite's vehicles are really good too. They can be difficult to drive at times due to the terrain not always being in the vehicle's favour, but they're still satisfying and fun to use as well. The Warthog and Razorback are great vehicles to take some Marines into battle with, especially the Razorback since it can hold up to 5 other people. The Wasp is great too and is very easy to control. The Banshee in Infinite is a vehicle I still need to get a bit more used to, but it does function well and looks cool too. There are other vehicles as well, of course, like the Mongoose, Wraith, Ghost, Gungoose, Scorpion, etc. You get it. I probably don't have to go through all the vehicles, but they're all still great to use in the right situations. 343 have really went above the bar when it came to what people have expected from the Halo Infinite campaign. Like, I was expecting it to be really good, but not as great as it actually turned out to be. The gameplay in Halo Infinite is great, and 343 have done a really good job advancing the series as a whole. Next I want to talk about Infinite's open world and how that all works. So after I think the first 2 missions, you are placed into the open world of Zeta Halo, and honestly it's exceeded my expectations. I mean, this whole game has exceeded my expectations. There are a bunch of different activities for you, the player, to do in Zeta Halo, such as your main missions, capturing outposts, saving squads of Marines, finding collectibles such as armor lockers, audio logs, and Spartan cores. You can also take out banished targets, which are extremely valuable or dangerous, and you can also take out certain banished bases as well and disable whatever function they have. There truly is a lot to do in Zeta Halo, and it's been done incredibly well. The open world of Halo Infinite is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. There's quite a lot to explore on the map, and that's one of the ways in which my expectations have been exceeded. You can unlock outposts, which are called FOBs, or Forward Operation Bases, by finding them around Zeta Halo and killing the enemies occupying them. Capturing FOBs allows you to have outposts you can fast travel to, change your weapon at, choose a vehicle to drive, etc. FOBs are basically little hubs for the Chief and the Marines. As you rescue Marines, there'll be more wandering around the map and at the outposts. They can of course hop into vehicles with you as well, and it's great that Halo Infinite has made Marines a big part of the series again. It's cool to have Marines at your disposal all the time too. Marines are great fun to have along in battle as they provide company and make the game feel more alive. I personally love getting a Warthog or a Razorback and having Marines hop in with me. The environment and nature of Zeta Halo is incredibly beautiful and stunning. Zeta Halo is quite unique, especially with the hexagonal Forerunner pillars all over the map. You can tell Zeta Halo has lots of history through its ancient Forerunner environments and war wreckage from the UNSC and Banished. The world is well crafted, looks great, and sets the tone of the whole game in general as well, as the ring's nature is one of the most prominent things you do see. On Zeta Halo you can find banished targets, which are dangerous enemies who are highly valuable to the Banished. They are basically bosses. Defeating these enemies allows you to unlock new variants of weapons, usually those that the targets are wielding. This is great for further variety to weapons, and they're a cool reward for taking out valuable targets as well. You can also get different weapon variants by saving Marine squads. Throughout Infinite's open world, you can find audio logs left from either the Banished or UNSC that give you context on Infinite's story before and during the events of the game. You can also find armor lockers which contain cosmetics for your multiplayer Spartan. Unfortunately, there is no actual armor, but there are some cool skins and emblems. Something else I love about Zeta Halo is the storytelling being told throughout the environment. All of the old Forerunner structures, the Banished and UNSC wreckages, the abandoned UNSC campsites, they all tell a story and make the world feel more alive, and like it's actually been lived in. Since Zeta Halo is fully open for the player to explore, you don't have to worry about out-of-bounds barriers or anything silly like that. That is, unless you try to fly right out of the ring in a Wasp or something. I remember back when people were breaking out of Halo campaign missions, just to explore a bit more and see what could be found on the outsides of the map. It's great 343 have actually now given us players that power to just explore around most of the time and do whatever we want. There's no worries for map barriers, and the only limit really is yourself. The other thing I love about Infinite's open world is the amount of enemies there are. Halo Infinite really makes you feel like a tank when you realise how many enemies are around. 343 have done a good job at attempting to make the player feel like a Spartan by having the odds stacked up right against you. Halo Infinite's art style is perfect. 343 have modernised Halo's classic style it was known for before Halo 4. The combination of realism and cartoony style works well for Infinite, especially since it's not meant to be a realistic as possible looking modern day shooter like COD or Battlefield. Also, the lighting and shading in Infinite is the best out of any game in the series released to this date. I've been playing on the Xbox One X, and here I'll show a few cutscenes with Chief, and you can just see how good the lighting looks. You can even tell that the Chief's visor is very reflective because of how the lighting hits on it. I'm surprised by how good Halo Infinite has been able to look on last gen. Some may even get this footage mistaken for PC or Xbox Series X gameplay even. The Marines look really cool too. I love the look of the Marines in Infinite as it advances the classic look of the Marines they were known for before Halo 4. The enemies also are modernised versions of their classic looks. The Grunts look the best they have, so have Elites, so do the Brutes, the Jackals, you get the picture. Also on Xbox One X you can choose between the quality and performance modes for 4K 30fps or 1440p 60fps. And whilst there's barely a difference visually, there is a big difference in FPS of course, so I do recommend performance mode for the best experience. In my first session playing, I did experience some stuttering here and there, and even got to a point where it was chronic, but honestly it didn't affect my experience too much as I was expecting frame drops here and there anyways. Next few times I played, however, up until finishing the game, I didn't really experience any frame drops at all, so I don't know if it was fixed or if it was just my Xbox having performance issues earlier and not the game, but either way, the game performs great on Xbox One X, with a few drops here and there, and I was surprised to see the campaign running at 60fps too, so thanks to 343 for optimizing the game so well. Next up, I'd like to talk about difficulty. Now, I played on Heroic difficulty, and this in my opinion is the most challenging Halo campaign to date. The trailer didn't lie when it said that this would be Chief's greatest challenge yet, as Heroic difficulty in Infinite was definitely a challenge, and honestly, Infinite is one of the most challenging games I've ever played, and this is coming from someone who's beat every Halo on Heroic at least, and plus I've beaten Reach, Free, and ODST on Legendary. I'm not putting the game down for being challenging either, I love the challenge. I honestly have never felt my blood stir so much when in combat in a game before, and I find it quite fast-paced like Doom Eternal in a lot of situations. With the tools that Infinite provides, like the abilities and weapons, you can get through, you just have to keep trying and by luck you'll be able to pull through to combat. The grapple shot was my personal best friend during the campaign, as it provides so much usefulness when in need of escaping or getting an upper hand on the enemies. The most difficult enemy in the campaign that wasn't a boss battle would have to be the Brute Chieftains with the gravity hammers. They jump unrealistically far and are near impossible to beat on Heroic. There were a lot of moments in the campaign where I found myself having to react incredibly fast to enemy attacks and push myself to my limits during a fight. A couple boss fights got like this too. Let me know how you guys fared with Infinite's difficulty. I really enjoyed the challenge myself, and I died quite a lot too, since it was my first playthrough and maybe Heroic wasn't the best decision, but I definitely don't regret it as it has helped me improve more and feel even better for beating the game too in just over a day, so I might even try Legendary sometime. Halo Infinite's music is amazing, and just like the art style, Halo Infinite's music is a modernized form of the classic Halo music. The composers have done a great job at capturing Halo Infinite's atmosphere and tone with the music in the game. The combat music is great and really has a good mix of old and new, plus it also really fits the tone of the setting. Some of Infinite's tracks are in fact just newer versions of their older counterparts, and it's really cool to hear Halo's classic sounding music again in a new Halo game. There's even certain times in the open world where I'll be driving around or walking around, and then all of a sudden a peaceful sounding track will start playing as you look out over Zeta Halo as the sun sets or something like that.
Okay, I think I'm gonna be sick.
Whoa!
Halo Infinite's music is really beautiful, and it really gives off the feelings of hope, revenge, heroism, ancient epicness, etc. Sometimes during certain fights with the Banished, you'll get a track with a lot of drums, and them ones are usually the best in my opinion, as it's the right feel for the Banished and how they're represented. Also, you'll get certain tracks during combat which are more classic sounding, with pianos playing, the monk chants and stuff. And when you start hearing that during combat, it makes you think of how far Chief has come to get to this point, and it really adds to the importance of Infinite and its overall story. Halo Infinite's dialogue is the best and most natural in the series. The dialogue exchanged between enemies has improved considerably since Halo 5. I love the way the Banished will constantly throw insults towards Chief, and how they talk up themselves too.
Boy, oh boy. Been a long day of slaughtering humans. Wish you Sin Healy could fight as good as you talk. He's here. Someone
The Grunts, Elites, Jackals, and Brutes have great dialogue that encaptures their roles and personalities well, very well in fact. Chief's dialogue is great too. Chief's character in Infinite is the best it has been in the series. Whilst Chief may seem less human than he did in Halo 4 and 5 based on the trailers and gameplay we saw provided by 343, when you play the campaign yourself and progress through, you'll realise and remember that Chief has been through a lot, and he's been doing what he's been doing for a while now. So because of all that, it's definitely made the Chief seem more numb, and just more used to everything. Chief does care about things and is human at heart, and it shows through his dialogue in Infinite as the story progresses on. Halo Infinite's dialogue is brilliant. Steve Downes did a great job playing Chief, and it's the best dialogue Chief has had in the series, and the dialogue and voice portrays Chief's character in Infinite perfectly. And same goes with the other characters as well. I didn't know if Halo Infinite was going to knock off Halo 2 and become my favourite Halo game in terms of the story, but it did. Halo Infinite has, in my opinion, the best story in the series, and there are a bunch of reasons as to why. First off, Halo Infinite's story teaches multiple values. It teaches players that humans make mistakes, it teaches players not to give up. There's a bunch of different values that you can pick up from Halo Infinite's story, and that's just one of the great things about it. You could really make a good essay on Halo Infinite's story and how it represents humanity incredibly well or something like that. The dialogue exchanged between Chief and Echo 216 are the most human dialogue you'll probably ever hear in a Halo game. There's a particular emotional cutscene where Echo 216 and Chief have one of the most human and natural moments in a Halo game. Echo 216 is represented very well as someone who understandably does not want to go up against the Banished when the odds are stacked so highly against them, but you know what the Chief's like. I also love how the Banished antagonists were heavily involved in Infinite's story and cutscenes. It really adds so much more character to the enemies than previous Halo games. Halo Infinite's characters have lots of personality and are incredibly natural, and sound just how they look. I love Halo Infinite's story and all the moments in it. It's almost like a nostalgia trip in many ways too, because you'll be taken through certain environments which seem familiar. There's even a few boss battles which remind me of characters or bosses from previous games. 343 has definitely catered well to Halo fans looking for a spiritual reboot in the franchise, and the way the story was executed was near perfect. Also, the relationship between the Chief and the weapon, Master Chief's new AI, is exceptionally well done. and Chief's untrustiness for AIs since Cortana is represented well. Chief is like a father figure to the weapon, who is very naive and innocent in some ways. The Chief is basically the grumpy old dad wanting her curious, young naive daughter to stay out of trouble. The dynamic between the two is quite natural, and it plays a major part in the story. When it comes to how long the story was and how long it actually took me to complete it, I can't give exact figures on that, but it definitely didn't just take a few or a couple hours, because I was doing open world stuff too. But the story is a really good length, and it's definitely not short. Whilst I love the story and it's my favourite in the series, it didn't quite meet my expectations. I was honestly expecting... And yeah, so I'll see you all next time. Bye bye. It looks like there will be some DLC in the future, which will continue off on what was being alluded to in Infinite's main campaign. This makes sense, after all, since Infinite is the last game in the series for 10 years, so this was sort of already expected. So in conclusion, I love Halo Infinite's campaign, and it's my favourite in the franchise. The gameplay has improved heaps since the last entry, Halo 5, and makes it hard to go back to the older games without the feeling of awkwardness. The open world of Halo Infinite is exceptionally brilliant, and for it being the first time this has ever been in the series, 343 has done an amazing job. The story is great, the music, dialogue, open world, you get it. I'm really happy with how Halo Infinite's campaign has turned out, and it's exceeded my expectations overall in many ways. Halo Infinite has advanced Halo so much in just one game, and that's crazy. So anyways guys, that is the end of this video. If you did enjoy, be sure to like, comment and subscribe for more. Also, if you've completed the Halo Infinite campaign, be sure to give me your thoughts down on it. But please don't spoil anything in the comments, as there's probably going to be people who haven't finished the game yet.